Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to take a look at the idea of why passive players and players that try and play smart are often having trouble improving or ranking up compared to their aggressive counterparts who seem to play kind of brain dead Counter Strike. And of course, this isn't a rule, but it's something I've definitely noticed very commonly when I'm reviewing demos. So here we've got Fnatic's Razor CSGO. Not sure he's a member of Fnatic quite yet, but maybe he's in the academy, and he's on the T side here of Mirage. This is a Patreon supporter. So as I was going through his demo, I noticed this really popped out to me. We're going to start with a very aggressive round to show you what it really means and what you get out of it. And a lot of what it is, it's really the density of decisions you're making. When you're being aggressive, you're making a ton of different decisions that you can easily reflect on and really understand how you could have played better, as opposed to when you're playing too passive. And I don't mean just passive a little bit, but simply overly passive, which is often what happens, especially at lower ranks. You're not making enough decisions that you can really dissect, and so your improving is going to be slowed. So as he makes his way out A, tosses the flash over, makes his way over. Crosshair placement is really not on point there, and the spray control could be a bit better as well. Following that, the route into the bomb site isn't perfect, certainly could have been doing something a little bit differently, and he's going to throw a nade that absolutely dunks his teammate, but team damage must be off, and he follows that by dying to an opponent because he forgot to reload and his crosshair wasn't quite in the right position. That is a very information dense situation. There's a ton of different things going on in that round, and he can easily look back at this round and have things to learn and improve on. Especially when you're looking at players and you're looking at yourself, if you're not going to be demo reviewing, oftentimes the memorable moments are the moments where you interact with an opponent. And if you're playing passive, oftentimes you'll go a long time without that happening. So sometimes that can be hard to remember as well. If we cut back to an earlier time, when Razor CSGO was much younger, in fact, 12 rounds younger. We're going to head to round number 3. Round number 3 here is one he's going to play overly passive, and he's going to make his way out towards mid boxes here, and he's going to do the typical thing you often see is he's going to get kind of scared and not want to continue forward. Instead of trying to pressure towards connector, maybe going into con, smoking top con and taking connector control, or smoking on cat or top con and taking ladder control is really what you want to be doing in middle. So he's making a mistake in not doing that. However, there's not a lot of decisions to be made here. He's deciding at all moments not to go aggressive, but his entry pathing, that's non-existent. His crosshair placement, well, there's not too many places to look at. It's not as relevant. You don't see him shooting at opponents quite as often. This is a much less decision dense than the aggressive round. And when he does get aggressive, you can look at this route into bottom middle. Should he be hugging the right wall here? Well, oftentimes you don't really want to be doing that because it makes you very vulnerable to some sort of flash peek from window or from connector. However, they did kill a player in window, I believe, so perhaps that's not the biggest of deals, but it's definitely something to look at, and potentially if someone does punish him for that, he could easily have an idea of how to fix that. Then as he makes his way over into connector here, the clear isn't perfect, neither is the clear in jungle either, probably could be doing it a bit better, and as he finally encounters an opponent here, he's going to whiff the spray just a little bit, and eventually he will be punished for his sins. Now, if you look at the earlier aspect of that round, he was playing overly passive, and I see people do this, on a round by round basis, and Razor was definitely a player that did that. Round by round, he played very, very passive. To put it one way, the more decisions you make, the more potential moments you have to reflect on, dissect, and improve upon, and thereby you should improve more quickly and it should scale up. This isn't always the case, and certainly I'm not saying you cannot play somewhat passive CS. However, you need to be very careful as to what you think smart CS is, and certainly tend a little bit more aggressive in certain situations. You can have more decisions to look over, and you can try and improve more quickly. I really do think that part of the reason that you see very aggressive players improve very quickly, not only because they're, mechanically gifted, which often is part of the case, it's because when you play aggressive and you really test the limits of what you can and can't do, you're going to find those limits and you're going to be able to apply those throughout your game and throughout the way you play CS in general, as opposed to if you're hiding in T-spawn every round. The action isn't necessarily going to come to you. You have to make the action happen yourself. You have to venture out into the big, wide world and find an opponent and see how they react. The other issue is, especially at lower levels, I find that when you're playing more passive, oftentimes it means you're lurking, oftentimes that means you're waiting for rotations, and certainly one of the things that lower level players are bad at is rotating at sensible, discernible moments. And if you're trying to outplay someone who doesn't know what they're doing, you might be getting some slightly inconsistent feedback. Instead, if you take the fight to your opponents and they're holding an angle, it might be a little bit easier to improve upon. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. Do you like what you see here? Do you love the channel? Do you love the content? Are you a fan of VOO, VOO CSGO? Then maybe, just maybe, you should head over to patreon.com/VooCSGO. What you're going to be able to do there, you can get some demos reviewed if you want in a very unreasonable time frame. Usually takes like 2 or 3 weeks, even though, that's completely ridiculous. You can sometimes get some content. I've got some pro content in there. I've got some demo breakdowns. You can look at other people's demo reviews. Got plenty of things you can look at in there, and you can feed my addiction of CS.